Welcome everybody to another episode of the In the Paint Show. This is Ronnie Flores with my co-hosts Chelsea Hopkins and Umana. How are you guys doing today? We're going on a Monday morning, bright and early. Hope everybody's doing well.
Good morning. Good morning.
So everything good. Everything good. I'm up.
Yeah. Did you guys enjoy your Easter?
Yeah, I had a lot of food and a lot of sleep.
A lot of food and a lot of sleep.
Oh, sorry, Ronnie. I was saying I was with the fam. You know, we had church, little Easter brunch, and very casual. A lot of NBA on, so couldn't be away from the house too much, but it was good.
Yeah. No, Chelsea, you watching the NBA, and we're going to talk about that a lot today. Kind of our preview our NBA playoffs. Talk a little bit about high school, college. Ani, this past weekend, I'm sure there was an event out there. There's an event in LA every weekend. Did you go to anything, or was it just more like, hey, I'm gonna small event, I'm gonna stay away? I know you can go to an event every single weekend.
Oh yeah, especially in Dallas. Like they had about 3 events going on. The biggest one was the circuit. They had theirs out in Carrollton. I didn't go on Sunday. Like I was there for like probably 8 to 9 a.m. I went to church. I was just like, man, y'all got it. They told me, they said, hey, Ani, pray for us. Oh, well, I said, I didn't make the schedule. Y'all schedules on Easter.
Yeah, I saw some of those. Posts, and I said, "Oh man, they're going on Easter morning." I know some people are pretty hot about that, but hey, the show goes on and people go on. There's constant events, and I don't think it's going to end anytime soon. I mean, everybody will say, the events are watered down right now. I don't know what we can do to change it. Everybody wants to get involved in basketball after COVID, and it is what it is. I mean, we talk about that, and it seems like on the high school level, we kind of want to probe the paint before we get into the NBA. The Jordan Brand Classic was this past weekend. It was last Friday. Chelsea, as you know as well, on the girls' side, and Ballislife was helping them promote it, and they did it online. And the 2019 game, the last game they had was in Las Vegas, and it was at T-Mobile. And honestly, there was 200 people there.
Yeah, small turnout.
Yeah, it was 2019. So then the COVID hit. We didn't have a Ballislife game. We didn't have a Ballislife game in 221. So then the McDonald's Jordan comes back. I just didn't hear much buzz about it, especially on the boys' side. It was during the NBA playoffs on Friday afternoon, and I watched it on the stream, but there was NBA playoff games going on. So I know most people are probably watching the NBA playoffs. The play-in game. It was the play-in game. I'm pretty sure it was the Trae Young game. And I just think the average basketball fan is going to watch that. Obviously, it was the Cavs and the Hawks game. So, Ani, what did you take of it? And when I took the game action, it was just more of the same. Like didn't change much from McDonald's, like who played well, who the standouts were. What did you take from it, and what did you take just from the overall? These getting back into these national games, and they just don't seem to have the buzz or the fans there at the games that they previously did.
It seems like once you get past Geico, obviously we had McDonald's and Geico. In McDonald's, like once you get to the actual game, I know it's the practices and the scrimmages that are probably more intense. They're generally more intense. The Jordan game just kind of seemed like a little bit more all-star game type feel. I didn't think they were really competing like that. The McDonald's game, I thought you saw more like back and forth, and I thought this was more all-star game type. I mean, he had a lot of talent. Nick Smith won the MVP, I believe. But like you said, just didn't have a feel. Like I just think once you get past when you get to the McDonald's, Geico, like even the state championships, I kind of went back. Just
people are a little hangover. They're getting over it. They're getting ready for AAU. It's getting late in the calendar. Yeah, I see that. As you said, the scrimmages and McDonald's are good, and usually the practice are good. The NBA scouts are there, and almost all of them are there. Like at least one representative from each team. But in past years, the scrimmage a lot of times was closed, depending on where it was, and the venue was closed. The families would be able to watch, but the public and the media wouldn't watch. But now they're televising the scrimmage, which is great. Like it's great. But like you said, is it a hangover from the game? I just kind of want to watch the scrimmage and the practices on there. It was definitely different than it was, 20, 20, 30, 25 years ago, when not so much that the players didn't know each other, because the players all knew each other and competed against each other. It's the public was getting kind of their first look at a lot of these guys. So it seemed like there was more emphasis on the game, or, hey, I want to do good. This is my first time on national TV. Now these guys, they're well known by then. I mean,
right.
Yeah, I mean, it's the area. It's the era of social media, though, too.
Yeah.
Like, you can see a kid, 15 times on Twitter, Instagram, before you actually even catch a live action game. So I think you're absolutely right, and I think timing too is just everything. Like you said, it was so much basketball going on. Like, the playing games in the NBA have been an absolute hit. And I'm going to be totally honest with you. I didn't know about the Jordan Brand Classic until recently, because there was a local Vegas girl who was playing in it. But other than that, like, you talked about promotion. I didn't hear too much about it. I didn't see anything about it. So that's it.
That makes sense, because like you said, on a Friday afternoon, if you're gearing up for your weekend or your work week is done, you're gonna say, okay, I'm gonna watch the NBA game, playing game. This is gonna be like
right
in the playoffs. Like,
and the playing games have been low key kind of lit. Like, I don't know if people expected them to be this good, but I have enjoyed them. So
the playing games are definitely good. Again, so what do you guys think as we move on? What do you think it could be done? Does the game need a facelift? Does it need some changes to the National All-Star Game, or is it just, hey, we're after COVID, let's next year will be better, the following year will be better when we get back to some sense of normalcy? Or do you guys think there needs to be some kind of change?
Yeah, I just think I know the Jordan Brand tries to market it a little, the game they try to market it different than the McDonald's. Probably have a little bit more like pre-game, pre-event. Maybe maybe even televised scrimmages and stuff. I just thought the competitive nature of it wasn't what it should have been. That was my main issue with it. I just thought the competitive nature wasn't very good. I just thought it was a little bit of just hoop it up. We just bringing them in and stuff. And it's like, if you want to do that, for me, I think then the stuff you do prior to the game needs to be more entertaining then, right? Like, like Ballislife, when of your all-star games, like, y'all have a lot of stuff going on. Ballislife, we have a lot of stuff going on, so it's dope,
Right.
But, the Jordan Brand game, if you're trying to compare it identical to the McDonald's game, then
right now, I hear you. The McDonald's game is just branded so well. I just think the bigger thing, Ani, is the announcement of the game is 10 times bigger than the game now. People just want to know if you make it. I know the day that the McDonald's game comes out, you're getting text messages, phone calls the week.
Yeah.
Is he going to make it? Is he going to make it? That's way bigger than the actual going to the game. You know what I mean? And it's tough for fans right now, too. I mean, we got to talk, both games were in Chicago. That's a little different. The McDonald's games a week before. So you expect those same fans to come out, spend $30 again? Like, in the same city. It's been in Chicago many times. And I remember when, like, Anthony Davis, the year Anthony Davis played in, the year Jabari Parker. I mean, the United Center was pretty much close to sold out. I was there. It was 16,000 people, 15,000, 17. Right now, they're getting 6,000, 5,000. So something's going to have to change. Like you said, I don't know, maybe the date a little bit, maybe just the pre-promotion. I think, obviously, the McDonald's is a strong brand. That's not going anywhere.
Right.
Like, people, it's very prestigious to play in that game. So we'll see how they go, but we don't want to spend too much time on that. We got a lot to talk about, and it kind of is what it is. Those games are not going anywhere. People are going to keep playing. As you mentioned, Team Air won 107-98. Thought Amari Bailey did a good job. The UCLA commit from Sierra Canyon. Casey Wallace did good down the stretch, and the winning basket was scored by Derek Lively on a nice feed from Jet Howard. Dylan Mitchell, Texas-bound Dylan Mitchell, as you mentioned, was one of the MVPs along with Nick Smith. The Iverson game is coming up on April 30th in Memphis. That game seems pretty competitive and pretty good. That's April 30th. Then we got the Ball Dogs All-Star game on May 1st on Sunday. They have a bunch of games all day, girls games, boys games, and 8:30 is the national game. I know, Chelsea, you may go to that. It's
absolutely.
Spring Valley High School in the Vegas Valley on May 1st. So fans, if you're out there, check out those two games. You can get tickets for the Ball Dog games on Ball Dog balldog.com. So as we talk about Vegas, we got to bring something up. We'd be remiss not to. Chelsea, you mentioned it. I was looking online as I'm always sitting on my computer on a Saturday night, and somebody's like, Ronnie, the girl from Spring Valley just got shot. I'm like, okay, what? Like what happened? Okay, so then I'd say more. Then somebody else told me, and I'm like, wait, wasn't she just at the Jordan Brand game? Like, is she back already? That's my first thought. I'd actually spoken to Lamar Bigby, who is the Las Vegas Knicks team director, and his daughter's Taylor Bigby, who plays at Oregon, and she's transferring. That's one of the first persons I thought to hit up. I was like, Lamar, can your daughter check to see if this may be like right or like is just maybe as an acquaintance. I'm not sure they're good friends or not, but. And then I was like, I thought she just got back from Chicago. Like she got shot. So yeah, a few more people told me. And then I found out a player who's a prominent player went to the hospital. So I already knew like, okay, this really happened. So, I mean, Chelsea, I told you, and then what's your first reaction to that? And then it's like, this is the first young lady who's played in the McDonald's and Jordan game from Vegas in 11 years.
Yeah, I think the last one maybe was Italy Lucas, maybe in 2007. The basketball community here is just kind of heartbroken. This girl, Aaliyah, just a lot of potential. So much promise. Everybody's just been so proud of what she's been able to accomplish and how she's represented Vegas. I've had the opportunity to meet her, pick up against her a little bit in the summers. I'm usually gone, but I try to just kind of keep tabs on the local kids, just the ones in my community. So I heard about it from you. Then shortly after, it's all over, Vegas Twitter, just kind of talking about the situation. And, thankfully, she's going to make it. So, that's the most important thing. For me, it's even hard to just even think about basketball, when you have somebody who's just in a position that they're just fighting for their life. So, I wish the young lady well. Everybody's praying for her family. She's going to make it, and everything else is kind of secondary at this point. It's just an unfortunate situation. And the thing that kind of just breaks my heart too is she was set to sign her letter of intent to USC, I believe today. So just emotional, really upsetting to Las Vegas to just have one of our very own, to be in such a terrible situation. And it just goes to show, like, sometimes wrong place, wrong time. And you kind of just she's just a kid. It's hard to say, well, she shouldn't have been there. She shouldn't have did this. She shouldn't have did that. Like, these kids, we make it sometimes be about basketball and their talent, but at the end of the day, they're still kids. She goes to a party, she's hanging out with her friends, and nobody expects this kind of stuff to happen. So it's just devastating when it does.
Yeah, Ani, did you hear all about it, or did you just see it after the fact? Like,
I was seeing on Twitter that something was going on with a Vegas player, and then when I saw the news that she got shot at a house party, I was just like, damn, like, no things can happen at a house party, but she probably was just going there having a good time. She just got done playing in the Jordan game, that's the last thing you would ever expect to happen, and so it was just like, damn, like. It's just tough. Like I heard she was gonna sign today. She just played Jordan Brand game, like, just all the work she's done, and just to kind of have that happen to her, I mean, she obviously didn't deserve that. Wrong place, wrong time, but it's just like, and you just like, man, like stuff like this gotta stop. It's like it's something every week, you know what I mean? Sometimes it just feels like that. It's like something every week, and you just like, okay.
On, something's happening all the time. Yeah.
Right.
You hear about the young lady being shot multiple times in her legs, and she's not going to make it. Like in terms of, I mean, she's going to make it. Like, I'm sorry, being, she's going to make it and continue her life. But like, why are you shooting her multiple times? And like, she's not shot in the chest or anywhere else. It's like somebody done like her, somebody, like just trying to keep her from achieving her dreams. That's what the first thing you think about. Like, wait a minute, she's having multiple surgeries on her legs, and she was hit nowhere else. Like, why? So it's kids are very, other kids can be very jealous, very, people's success is very fleeting. The thin line between success and not, and you see this happening a lot. And you wonder why, like society, what are we doing? Can we do anything? Can us three do anything? Can the basketball community do anything? And it's like, we try. There's groups, there's youth homes, there's AU teams, there's things to keep kids out of trouble, but it seems to keep happening. And like, this is not the only incident. And there's other incidents where you see athletes that are not doing well, or athletes not everybody makes the NBA or big time college. And over the years, I've known a lot of athletes, and those are the ones I actually tend to talk to a lot and keep in contact with, is the guys who just go on to get a job or like play for a little while. Maybe they play overseas. And the first thing I like to talk to them is like, dude, where are you paying your taxes? Where do you live? Oh shit. Yeah. This, I got to do this, especially with an NBA player. I'm like, dude, how are them taxes going? And they're just like, yeah, that's just an easy icebreaker, because they realize they're not high school kids. Are like, yeah, this is a big business. So that's what we talk about. And I see all these guys from LA. I'm mostly speaking of Los Angeles, because obviously it has a huge population, but they're not always doing good. You hear things from coaches as, so-and-so is homeless, or so-and-so is not doing well. And these are guys that went to college, and it just hurt. You wonder what you can do. And they're not that old. I would say, Adi, just so you know, like they're between Chelsea's age and my age. So, maybe early 30s to early 40s. And they're already really in bad shape. Like mental problems, homelessness. And it's like, whoa, they're not that old. They're class of 05, 06, 09, 03 from high school. And that's not that old. You still have a lot of life to live. So, yeah, I don't know what the solution is, but I wanted to get your guys' take on that. Like, what do you think? When you hear stories like this, what are people doing? Are we doing the right things? Obviously, people are doing enough. There's a lot of people happening out there, but are we doing the right things? Is it too much adulation? Is it too much, like you mentioned, Chelsea, earlier, too much publicity, social media, or is that just nonsense? These people are just not doing the right thing, like the people that are perpetrators. Like, it has nothing to do with how popular they are. It's just somebody who's doing the wrong thing.
I think, me being a professional basketball player, still, and somebody who's played for many years, like I've noticed that when you've done something forever and then it's taken away from you, sometimes you don't know how to respond. And it could be taken away from you in many different ways. But, you played basketball for 20 years straight, regardless of the publicity and how good you are, like you've done something consistently for so long. And then one day you don't have it anymore. And we see this on every level. You've seen NBA players that, get bounced out the league, and guys that have played for several years that are now bankrupt. Like, you made millions and millions of dollars. Like, you don't have any money now, or, guys that are, in college and maybe something happens and they don't finish. They enter the draft, which, up until recently, if you entered, you're done. Like, you can't go back to college. Like, there's no outlet to, kind of right your wrongs if you don't end up getting drafted. So I think it's just, there needs to be more things in place that kind of focus on the transition and even kind of building up to that point. And I have actually been kind of doing my own research on this. Elena Beard recently started a transitioning program for former WNBA players and girls that are overseas. Yeah. So it's only 1 or 2 years in. There's actual waiting list. So I'm on the waiting list to actually kind of join this program. And the program is computer-based, so Zoom calls, they're reading books, they're giving knowledge, they're kind of just trying to prepare people's minds mentally to take that next step for life after basketball. And kind of that's this trend that I'm seeing with just, all the way from high school to college to professional, that, people are struggling with not being able to do something that they've done their entire lives. So I don't think the social media aspect is going to change. Like, we're in different eras where different things are going to be way more prevalent than they were back then. But I would just like to see the efforts put towards what happens when we're not going to play anymore. And I would like to see those efforts start while people are playing. So not until they've hit rock bottom or they're homeless or they don't have money. And then it's like, okay, how can we help this person? And, I hate to name names, but, look at Delonte West, who's doing absolutely amazing now that, Mark Cuban stepped in, got him in rehab, totally changed this man's life and situation. But it's like, why did it get to that point? Like, he was a good, solid NBA role player, for his life to just go from, 100 to 0 in just a couple of years, that's heartbreaking. And to see those type of videos of him just, homeless on the corners, kind of, mentally just checked out. Like, I would like to see us intervene before people get to that point. And
Correct.
that's the biggest thing that I think needs to change or needs to be implemented at this point. And we need to start early. Let's start from college. Let's start, let's start from high school. Okay, what are you going to do if, what's your plan B to basketball if it doesn't, pan out? And I know people don't want to hear that kind of stuff, but it's the reality. Like, everybody can't play forever. And, well, nobody can play forever, but a very small percentage of people can play, as a pro or just anything, the next level. So that's what I'd like to see happen.
No, absolutely, you're right. Definitely think there just needs to be a transition program, especially in the pro level. I know they have that, and that's good that Atlanta Bears doing that for women's. I mean, that's huge, and I think just for like in Dallas, you see this a lot. Like, you see guys that were top 50 in the country or top 10 in the class in the state, don't do good in college, and they're just so messed up that they're not going to have an NBA chance, that they're going to do 4 years, right? I mean, there's a former McDonald's All-American like 2 months ago, he was homeless. It just something I'm concerned about is like, man, where's the people that are with them when when they were up, or when they had some money, or when the fame was there? And obviously, it's not just all the people that are around them now they left. It's their fault. It's that person's fault as well. But it's just like you would do anything for. I seen people be around players that would, if they needed new shoes, they'll drive up to the mall and pay whatever just to get them some new shoes, right? Or get them a ride to practice. But the moment that they don't make it, it's like the moment they don't benefit. Now it's like, okay, oh man, he was on some bullshit, or she was on some bullshit. Like, you see that, and I'm like, yo, but that was supposed to be your dude. Like, that was supposed to be your guy. But I think there definitely needs to be a transition program, but I also believe that people need to watch who they put around their child and their kid, especially when they're doing good. Because there are people that come in and say they can do this, they can do that. There's people that can come in and be genuine. And it's hard to really differentiate between the good and the bad, but you bring a lot of people that have their own hidden agendas that aren't good. I mean, the moment that basketball stops bouncing, you see where they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely true. I think you guys hit it right on the point, because we hear a lot about NBA rookie, orientations and transitions. Well, for guys that are already prominent and popular, have made a lot of money, but you don't hear that, like you said, at the college level or even at the high school level. It's very interesting, that, like, especially now, because you meet people from all over. Like, Ani, you live in Dallas, Chelsea live in Vegas, and 50 years ago, and my grandparents were of our age, the high school supporting community was very much like a college is now. They had high school reunions that were like college reunions up until their 60s and 70s. They were a very close-knit group, and they try to help each other if somebody was down. So you see things like that, and you just don't see it as much because people move and move out. Like, hey, I live over here. I live in Texas. I live in Chicago. People are not that connected, even though we're connected very easily on the phone. We're not that connected in many respects. You don't see all your friends from high school and even a little bit from college all the time. So some people do feel disconnected. They feel, like you said, down on luck. And I can imagine having the adulation of playing ball and being popular in your community or something, and then it's all gone. Like, that gotta be tough, especially like a super popular person who, that becomes part of who they are, dealing with the media or dealing with people calling them, wanting to hang out with them. Then it's just gone. Like, it can, like you said, Chelsea, it can happen at any age. Sometimes it happens at 23. Sometimes it happens at 30. Sometimes it doesn't happen until you're retired, at the end of an NBA career or WNBA career at 35, but it's going to happen. So, like, I know, Chelsea, you're involved, like, you like to get involved in your grassroots basketball travel team, and you like real estate, and you probably like a few other things that keep you ingrained. I know you like the kicks. We've talked about you being on Jordan McLaughlin's Kicks of Your Life podcast. I know you like, you like to collect kicks, so that gives you something to look forward to and to strive to. I'm not sure everybody has that, especially ball players on the men's side. I see them, they're not, if they're not talking about ball or hanging out, they're not talking about much. And you see that a lot. You know what I mean?
I think I have a pretty good balance overall, but I will say, like, you know, I plan to retire soon. So, you know, I'm going on year 10 overseas. You know, I just kind of in a place where I want other things to kind of, you know, and I've done everything I wanted to do with basketball. So right now, just continuing to play has just kind of been icing on the cake for me. So I feel like I'm ready to walk away, but I don't know until I actually do it. You know, I tell people that all the time, like, oh yeah, no, next year, hey, I'm out of there. Like, it's over. I want to go home, you know, whatever. But it's like, you don't really know until you're experiencing it. So I'm hoping that, you know, I have such a great support system. You know, I do all these little things, like just in different areas that are totally not basketball related, which have given me, you know, just kind of balance. So it's not just all basketball all the time, but I definitely can't imagine life without basketball. So I assume that I will be doing some type of basketball in some way, shape, or form. But, you know, it's just hard to say. Like, you know, it's easy for me to talk about what could be done, happening, whatever. But, you know, I hope I don't, you know, hit a wall when I finally decide to retire, because I could just imagine how hard it is. Like, I'm going on 32 and I've been doing basketball since I was 2. So like 30, like literally 30 years. Like, so, you know, we'll see.
Yeah, no, I think you'll be good in your transition. Like you said, you have a support group is good. You have your friends, your family, and that's always good. So speaking of that, when we talk about family and we talk about like the support group of a pair, Ani, let's talk a little bit about Emoni Bates, because we talked about 3 years ago. If we would have talked about him, I mean, it's like, where's this guy going in the draft? Where is you know, he's not going to college. Why is he even getting recruited? It's useless. He's not going to college. He's the Gatorade National Player of the Year as a sophomore. Again, I have my own National Player of the Year. Mr. Basketball USA has been around for a while. I have a panel and I try to stress to them, please look at the stats I'm sending you. Please follow the record of the team and maybe some shooting, you know, some basic shooting percentages or something to give you some basis, because as you know, at the high school level, that stuff can be inflated. It could be a little inaccurate. And I've been following this my whole life. This is what I like Chelsea, like you like kicks. I like high school stats and high school, you know, artifacts. So I'm looking at that stuff all the time since I was 7, 8, 9 years old. Like, oh, that's guy. Where's this guy? So I follow that. So when you have a guy like Emoni Bates, and he's really talented, and he's National Player of the Year over Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, Jalen Green, and we're going to talk about those guys because we're going to talk about our NBA, you know, kind of awards and what we, you know, go over the NBA season. But is that just, and he had a great season, but is that just too much? It's like, is that too much? And he's on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Got to try to make, you know, he's got to try to make kind of not, I guess, rebuild, because he's young. He's 17, 18 years old, but he's got to kind of rebuild his, I don't know, his whole maybe confidence and his whole, like he's almost rebuilding his career already again. Is that even fair to him? Like, he's a young man. Like Chelsea said, he's a young man, and he's not much older than Aaliyah Gayles. Like, is this fair?
I mean, it's just a business. I don't know if it's fair. It's just a business. You know, like 3 or 4 years ago, I remember seeing him as a freshman. I was like, this is like the best freshman basketball player I've seen in a really long time. Like, he was that good. Just to kind of see where he's at now. I know at Memphis, them playing him at the point, 17 years old, you know, situation didn't look very good. At all. Memphis didn't look very good in the beginning. You know, there's some other stuff you hear about him and his deal. I ain't gonna go into that, but like, man, it just Memphis didn't seem like it was the good fit at all, to be honest with you, just basketball wise. And you know, I'm gonna ask you this, like, you know, there's people talk about the baggage or whatever, you know, with him, if you're a high like, you know, does he go to another high major, or does he look into an overtime elite, or does he go G League? Like they say, he has to rebrand himself almost. Like, how does he do that? Does it go into another college, or is it maybe going to the pro route? I mean, I would imagine like overtime and some of those guys would still be interested in him. He was so young, you know, in college this year.
Yeah, if you're asking me, I would say he needs to get around adults, men. Enough of the boy shit. Like
Yeah, yeah.
like nothing against overtime or anything else. Like if you go from an AU team and you're a best player in the country or one of the best players in the country, I don't care what. Right now, it's just the way it is. They're not hard on you. At some point they're kissing your ass. You know what I mean? Because that's just the nature. You don't. It's like when I was a kid and I wanted to play for Slam and Jam. I told my dad I want to play for Slam and Jam. It was the AAU team, and
Yeah.
I wasn't good enough. Like it didn't. I couldn't play. Like it didn't matter. Like it was just a dose of reality fast. Like I'm not going to play in college. I'm not. You're not good enough to play on these teams. But now, my dad could just make a team if I wanted to be playing and say, "Hey, guys, you playing on his team." And he's going to shoot all he wants and do all he wants. So it's like he's already had the controlled environment, and I thought he was doing good at Lincoln High School, and then when he went to play on his dad's team, like you said, it started changing. The narrative started changing. So to get to Memphis, it's still another situation where they're wanting him to go there.
Right.
He has to almost go to a place where it doesn't matter if he makes it or not. Like I think the G Leagues would be good for him because he's playing against older players. Those guys are trying to get in the NBA. They don't give a damn about his social media, and they're 28 years old, 30. It's kind of like Chelsea said. This is the last leg for some of them. They're trying to stay on a roster.
Yeah.
I just think it would be better for him to be around older people who maybe been there, who've coached in the NBA or that level, like Jason Hart coached the G League, this team, and they had older players,
Right.
That would be a much better situation than transferring to another college. To me, transferring to another college already shows that there's something wrong. What's missing here? What top 5 players transferred? They said that there was some stat out there said since like 2007, I guess since like ESPN's rankings came out, like no top 5 players ever transferred because that's something wrong. Like something's not right when you transfer it. Now something maybe you're going to something better, but something's not right. And then you get into the case where it's a money thing where now, let's just be honest, guys, guys, especially on the guys side. I don't really want to speak about the girls' side too much, but it could happen. Is they're going to go to a college that maybe they think they can get the best NIL deals and the best money possible. That's what it is, So like,
right.
Is that what's going to happen again? Emoni's going to go where he thinks he's going to fit in and he's going to make the most money. Like that's not necessarily good. Like it's not a good fit on the court. It wasn't that good of a fit this year, regardless of how much money he made. So that's costing you money. So I would see him go the pro route.
Yeah, and just my opinion, the best advice I can give as just a basketball player too is he needs to just put his head down and he needs to go back to work. I mean, there's going to be many lumps and periods and stuff in your career where things don't really work out how you expected it. And the only answer to that is just to get your confidence back up, get better, and to stay in the gym. So for me, like that's the biggest thing. He hasn't performed to what people thought he would to this point, but at the same time, he's 18. So all of his goals, all of his dreams, they're still in reach. But it's just like, how hard do you want to work for them? Like now you're kind of, a little bit exposed, maybe, not as good as people thought you were. So now you gotta ramp it up and show people, yeah, I'm as good as advertised. I was down last year, but I'm here this year to get to work and to show you that I'm everything that you guys thought I was. So, that's the biggest thing. Like, he's leaving Memphis. I don't know if he's going to go pro route or college, but whatever he does, like, you got to work hard because nobody cares anymore. Now you're Emoni, who was, a top pick that didn't make it and everybody thought was one and done and not really is. And now he's going somewhere else. So he needs to change the narrative and only he can do it. So not even the people around him, like the people around him could want him to be all they want him to be. But at the end of the day, he has to play. And so far, he hasn't been great. So, I'm always rooting for just kids and everybody in general, because I know how hard it is to under a microscope and, to lose your confidence when things aren't going your way and you don't perform like that you can. But the only real answer is just to get back to work. So that way, the next time you're seen, you have a good showing.
Yeah, and I think, too, from the media side, this has always happened as long as I've been talking about basketball and around basketball. We always want to compare a high school player to the hot player or to the player that people like to see. And they've done it for a long time. And you guys would be surprised when James Worthy was coming out of high school. this is crazy. This doesn't even make sense. It won't even make sense to you when I say this. You guys will be like, what are you talking about? When James Worthy was coming out of high school, people thought all 6'8", 6'9" guys were going to handle the ball like magic.
Yeah. No.
And they go, James Worthy could be the next Magic Johnson. So you had all this guys that were like 6'8", 6'9", there were fours, were like people like, how about if he's the next Magic? And then after 2 or 3 years, they realized there is going to be no next. Like it was such a bad comparison. So I said it's happened. And then you go to like a little bit later, and people obviously want to say the next Jordan, Harold Miner, Grant Hill, and I like the Baby Jordan moniker for him.
Jerry Stackhouse.
Jordan, I like Jordan. Jerry Stackhouse was, I think, a little involved in that. It's like I loved, but Harold Miner was left-handed. He didn't play very good defense. He didn't play anything like Jordan other than some nice stuff. So it was like, oh, he's not going to be the next Jordan. So then we went. Now lately we've been on Steph Curry, right? Oh, this guy can shoot like Steph Curry. And for whatever reason, Kevin Durant got caught in this. He's going to be the next KD. Like that's all me. Like where did you get that from? Like because he's skinny and he has tats on his skinny arms. What are we talking about? Like that's just a bad comparison. Well, I did some comparisons. Some people asked me. I was like, if he's at the peak of his level, I think he could be like maybe a Brandon Ingram. They have similar bodies. They can score. They can move similar. I go, that's pretty good for him. Like
and Brandon Ingram is hard. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody is not going to be like, it's so few and far between people that are just great, 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 and incredible.
Yeah,
like
Kevin Durant, like what?
Yeah,
like,
just stick in the league. Just play several seasons and do the best that you can. Like that's really how hard it is.
And he was getting that.
Yeah,
Emoni was getting next KD in like 8th grade.
Yeah, no, that was
why? Because he's tall and he shoots from the perimeter.
Yeah, like
talking about.
I remember seeing a highlight. Hey, Grace said the next KD, and I'm just like, man, I'm just praying that this kid did not see this mix. Because like as a 14-year-old, how like you see that, like how can you? What goes on to their mind? Yeah, how do you process that?
Completely process that. So I saw Emoni Bates too, Ani on the 15s, and LeBron was there that day because they were playing Stratford Great, and it was where was it? Indy? Had to been Indianapolis. So he had a pretty good. Like you said, he was really good. I said, this guy's a hell of a scorer. But the first thing I thought about all that, I was like, and you mentioned, I was like, why is he playing 15s? If he's that good, why is he playing 15s? I said, because it's controlled. It looks good. It makes him look good. I go, if he's, especially when you're going into 10th grade, I get it. When you're a rising 9th grader, 15 or 16 is fine. If you're one of the best players in the country, now you're being compared to the greatest outside, and you're rising 10th grader, you best damn well be playing 17, or else you're not that. Like so come on now, like that. So it's controlled. He's always been in that controlled environment. And like you said, I think even Memphis was to a sense controlled. They put the team around Jalen Durant and him, and the team wasn't responding. Well, of course, the guys that have already been there are like, come on, we worked our butt off the last 2 years for this season. We're trying to play good. And some of those guys, it's very interesting. They played for Penny and for Todd Day on the EYBL. So he'd known them since. Imagine knowing you play for your coach in AAU since 8th, 9th grade, and now he's in college, and he bringing in younger players over you. That's gonna piss you off. I don't care who you are. Right. That's why the dynamic didn't work. So then when they got, like you said, Ani, when they got back to playing the other guys more focused on them, now they played pretty good. As much as they could down the stretch. So he's got to get it out of an environment that's not controlled. But yeah, those comparisons are so bad. They've been around for so long. Like Jabari Parker, Andrew Wiggins. Like some of them have done a good job with it, but like almost none of them have ever lived up to it.
Marvin Bagley.
It's tough. When I worked for Student Sports in the late 90s, early 2000s, we had magazines and magazine covers. So always had to choose the high school magazine cover. And well, it was all sports. So we did, a football preview in August, September. We did the basketball preview in October. And honestly, we did really good. Like Tracy McGrady, some other guys. DeJuan Wagner was on the cover. And, we got to a point where like the other sports, we were always doing better. Like there was always these basketball guys that were hyped. and they were on the cover, and like we even said it's like, okay, another hype guy that's going to be on the cover. Like, are they going to make it? They're not going to be as big as you think. Eddie Curry. I could go on and on. They're on the cover all the time, and it's like the magazine was just average. Like a few years later, the magazine was just another magazine. It wasn't like this. Oh my God, this is a great magazine as a keepsake. So, it's happening for a long time. So what I'm trying to do is stick up for Emoni Bates and say, like, he's pretty young. It's not all his fault, and he can still bounce back, as Chelsea said, if he just works on his game. But like, for him to be maybe a starter in the NBA will be great.
That's fine. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think what people will be hating on. But speaking of DeJuan Wagner, Ani, let's talk a little bit about what's going on in recruiting as we move forward. And you kind of talked about coaching changes. And I think the big news is Nolan Smith going from Duke to Louisville. And now they picked up Danny Manning, who was previously a head coach in the ACC. Like, what do you make of that? And, what other coaching hire or change has caught your eye?
Oh, yeah, no, I really like the Louisville hires. I mean, they'll be able to get players, Danny Manning, Nolan Smith. I mean, you got a former high major head coach on your staff, and Nolan, who's been at Duke. I think Louisville is obviously going to take a little bit of time, but I think they can get back to, being like a prominent, being going 2, 3, 4 rounds deep in the NCAA tournament. I kind of like the hires that they made. Over here, some other hires like at SMU, hiring Rob Lanier. That was at Georgia State. I mean, he's really, really good. It was at Georgia State. I think he was a really good hire. He's brought young assistants like Justin Crow, who was at La Tech. I think you got some real talented, assistants that can help get stuff done, that can really build. Like SMU here, like in Dallas, is like that. It's like that program that could be really, really good. Like especially when like Larry Brown before he left, like you got a chance to see some really good, like basketball and players come in and really grow. Like you're seeing in the U of H's and like how Tech has really grown through the years.
Yeah, that makes sense. And like you said, that's a big hire. I think I mentioned DeJuan Wagner because everybody's talking about DJ, and everybody else is assuming it was anointed DJ's going to go play for Cal at Kentucky, right? Because DeJuan got recruited for him at Memphis. He hired his dad when he was going to go to Memphis, and it's like everybody's like Nolan Smith and has this magic, and he'll be able to recruit DJ over at Louisville. And plus, they're 60 miles apart. Those schools have won titles. They necessarily don't. The fan bases don't like each other, and people take basketball seriously. So I just thought that was very interesting. And do you have any like thoughts of that recruitment? Like, I mean, everybody's just assuming he's going to go to Kentucky if he goes to college, and most people think he's going to go to college.
Yeah, I think. I think he'll go to Kentucky. It all depends if Cal's still there. We don't know what Cal may be at that time.
One more high school season, yeah.
Right. But I still think he goes to Kentucky. But it'll be interesting. I think that's gonna be it's gonna be a battle for him. Like I think you're gonna see a Kentucky being one, or you're gonna hear it gonna be Louisville. Like it's gonna change. It's gonna be like really like Anthony Black was. I feel like you thought everyone thought Gonzaga, then Arkansas came in. I think it's just gonna be a Louisville, Kentucky. Like he's leaning here, he's leaning there. Like the crystal ball is gonna change a lot.
Yeah, and those websites that Go Cards and those, they're gonna make a bunch of subscriptions because that's what they're trying. That's why they're so happy. They're like, yes, Nolan. They're gonna put money in their pocket. People, theorizing and trying to figure out where they're going. And you mentioned that I saw Nolan in New Orleans, and like you said, Ani, he's a well-known young assistant, and he has a magnetic personality. People know him. Obviously, they know his dad. His dad, Derek Smith, who's now passed, played for Louisville, and he's very close to Kenny Payne. He played in the NBA. You mentioned young coaches. Do you think it's just time? And the time is moving on, and recycling guys that are 60 years old, don't know anything about the portal. Like those days are kind of coming to an end, or do you guys think it's just timing, and young coaches are finally getting their chances to move up the ranks?
I definitely think it's just kind of time for the young coaches you're seeing young coaches just moving up. I mean, like Talvin Hester took the job at La Tech. I mean, you seen Nolan Smith, like even SMU is hiring young. You seen Jerome Tang take the job at K-State, and Dream Dowling and Uric Malagi's assistants. I mean, you're seeing a lot of young assistant young coaches being head high major coaches, high major assistants, and even mid-major head coaches. I just think it's just you're seeing a little bit of a change of the tide, just with young guys just getting these jobs. I mean, I'm seeing a decent amount of mid-major guys taking high major assistants, and it's great to see, to be honest. Like, you know, seeing work.
And Ani, just to piggyback on that a little bit, I went to Duke from 2008 to 2010, so I know Nolan personally. Good dude. You know, they won a national championship when I was there. You know, besides him just having a magnetic personality, I just think what you see with the young coaches is their ability to relate to these kids more. And that's what I think is the key. Like, you know, despite them having the credentials and, you know, being talented coaches, I don't want to take away the fact that, you know, some of these guys are good at X's and O's, but I think the biggest thing is recruiting. Like, people are going to relate to Nolan Smith, like more so than they can relate to, you know, a 60-year-old coach or a 50-year-old coach who just, you know, maybe won't be able to keep up with the times as much. So, you know, I think that's part of the trend. Just, you know, the ability to relate, the ability to recruit, have things in common, you know, get to know these young men and just develop relationships with them, because that's ultimately what it's about. Like, that's what's going to get these kids to come to your school, you know, despite, you know, maybe Kentucky having, you know, being blue blood and the money and all that other stuff. But I think it's just the ability to relate.
I have a little funny Nolan Smith story at the 2-7 McDonald's game, and it happened to be in Louisville. It was in Louisville that year. And I was talking to each player because I asked him about the game and who he thought was going to be the MVP. And I just remember the contrast between Michael Beasley and Nolan. Like, and plus they both played for DC Assault, you know, and like Michael Beasley was just funny and like goofy as hell. Like, I was like, he's such a great player, but he's just so immature, you know. And like Nolan was so mature. He already knew how to give the correct answer, like speak eloquently, and like it was just such a contrast because like everybody else was between those two guys. Like Nolan was like a leader, and people followed him without even him knowing it. He was by far not the best player there or anything like that. He was just one of the other guys, you know. But like the best players were probably D Rose, OJ Mayo, and Kevin Love, and like, but he was like one of the leaders, and like Michael Beasley was just having a great time. He was just having a great time, you know.
Good for him.
Having a great time. So it's pretty funny. So you, like you said, the relatability, the ability to understand the transfer portal, to have the relationships with the guys. You got to have the relationship with the guys now. In high school, because once they hit that portal, you're not going to get them. If you don't already have that relationship, you're not getting them. Oh, he's in the portal, so what? You don't know him. Like, they're going to have to recruit. It's crazy. You're going to have to recruit more high school players, but not offer them a scholarship. How crazy is that?
You're just in case they transfer, because, you know, a year or two from now, you might be able to get with them. Maybe you can't touch them right now, so you need to just kind of, you know, throw your name in the hat just in case.
And like you said,
go ahead.
No, and with that is like you're going to know that they're going to enter the portal before they enter the portal, because a lot of those guys that enter in the portal, or you know, the really good ones, you know already. So you've been recruiting the kid before he's even put his name in. So if you, like you said, if you haven't had a relationship with him in high school, you're not going to know till you see his name. But you've had a coach that's been talking to him for about a month, you know.
Correct. And I hate to say it, you already know sometimes they're going to be in the portal before they know they're going to be in the portal. You know,
I mean, I just got a text. I just got a text about someone that's about to get into the portal. I don't know that kid. You know what I mean? Like, I really, like, literally just got a text about that.
I mean, you hate to say it, but sometimes, because you, again, families have their views. You know, dads and moms are very high, and you're like, some coaches would tell me, Ryan, we can't wait to try to get that guy on the bounce back. He ain't gonna make it at that school, you know. Like, and it's more of at his level. And that's what it's becoming down to. So you got to have us coaches that know that, you know. It's not kind of like you said, you have the stereotype of 50, 60, 7-year-old coaches like, we're just going to coach them up when they get here. We don't, I'm a great coach. I don't care. We'll make it work. Like, those days are like
different times
bleeding. So yeah, that's going to be very interesting. I think the recruitment of DJ is going to be the big storyline in this summer and going into the fall. Obviously, he's a senior at Camden, New Jersey. His dad was National Player of the Year there, and his grandpa played there. So it's all connected. Like you said, it's all relationships. Let's move on to our main topic. And obviously, Chelsea, I'm going to put you on the spot. We're going to be on here, going to jump on you because we've been waiting for this for a while. So we go to the NBA playoffs, and we're talking about, obviously, we're going to start off with a team that's not in the playoffs, the most popular team. And the people, they're still going to talk about them. Obviously, we're talking about the Los Angeles Lakers, and they just didn't end strong. And, at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, we could say all these things we want, have all these theories, but what happened too is that they only played 21 games with the guys in their full lineup. They only played 21 games. Russ, LeBron, and AD. Was that the main problem, or there's a lot to unpack here? So was that the main problem though?
I would say no. Like, I think that there was a laundry list of problems with the Lakers. I mean, we have created this narrative. Well, they only played 21 games and all these lineups and rotations, stuff like that. But the Lakers aren't the only team that had people that were hurt. Correct. Like, Kawhi missed the whole season with the Clippers. Zion hasn't played in Lord knows when. These teams are still in the play-in tournament. They're still giving themselves the opportunity and a chance. So for me, just watching the Lakers, and I watched a lot of sad Lakers games this season. In my biggest opinion, I think the fit, the chemistry, and the age. Like, what I noticed is the Lakers are the only team that they don't have anybody young. So we have THT, and I think he's 22, 23, and that's literally it. But then you go up against a young Memphis team where everybody's under 23 and the Lakers can't even run and keep up with them. Yeah. Like, so it does hurt you to have key players missing. I think, this year LeBron had to do a lot, and, a lot of people, gave him credit for what, he was able to accomplish. But in my opinion, it wasn't great collectively for the team. And this because LeBron is putting up all these ridiculous numbers, but it's not translating to winning. Like, and that lets like, okay, if LeBron has to score 50 for us to barely win by 2, like, is that really good basketball? Like, anybody who really watches can say no. And, I'm the hugest LeBron fan. Like, I am LeBron through and through, but, I watched him play, and I watched just kind of how the team was playing and the effort and the energy. And I just felt like, this is not sustainable. Like, for a 30, what is he, 36, 37-year-old to just have to do this every single night, and, for us to barely have a chance to win. It's not even like Bron's getting 50 and the Lakers win by 20. Like, Bron gets 50 and the Lakers win by 4, like, to the Pelicans. Like, something crazy. So, I really hate the Russ narrative. Like, a lot of people are, kind of heavy on the it's Russ's fault train. But in my opinion, Russ is who he is. And it wasn't really a good fit from the start. Him being just ball dominant, Bron being ball dominant. And also too, I think just sometimes the pressure of just wearing the Lakers uniform kind of gets to you. Like, Russell's been a lot of the stuff Russell did this year, he did in Washington or he did in Houston, but were we watching those games every day? Was he under a microscope for us to say, like, wow, this is what he's doing? So it just wasn't prevalent. Like, the Lakers are on TV every single night, and the team's not doing good, and people don't want to blame Bron, even though Bron needs to take some blame, and, AD is always hurt. So Russ was just an easy target. So for me, the Lakers were collectively a mess. They need to make a lot of changes. They need to 100% get younger. And right now they need a coach, which, is sad. Like, Frank Vogel is another scapegoat. Like,
there's a lot of scapegoats. Yeah, I agree with that.
But when I think about it, who wants to take the Lakers job? Like, now how they handled Frank, 2 years ago, you won a championship. Okay, it was a bubble championship, but it was still a championship. There's many franchises who've never won. So I win a championship, and then 2 years later, I'm out. Like, that's not appealing. If I'm coaching anywhere and I have some young guys and I'm building something and I'm creating a culture, why would I go to the Lakers job just for us to have one bad season and you send me home? Like, it's terrible. Like, it's hard. It's crazy. Like, management, they have a lot of, just like I said, a laundry list of issues.
Yeah. You can't fire all the players. Like you said, somebody's a scapegoat. I mean, what were you going to chime in about that?
Yeah. Well, Chelsea, you said Russell was doing some of the stuff in Houston, he wasn't missing this many dunks. But he was still like the fact, like you don't need a ball dominant guard with LeBron, especially one that can't shoot. And then I agree, Frank Vogel was just a scapegoat. I just think it starts at the top. I mean, the Lakers are like that AAU team you see that's loaded on paper. It sounds good, and then they play their first session, and then they just are just 1-3, right? Or they could just never click, or the chemistry is not there. I think they need to do a better job of just first off in the draft. I think they need to draft better, and you don't need to rely on LeBron's trying to average 30 points per game. And I think media try to paint a narrative like, oh, LeBron's scoring 30 or 40, but you see the score LA lose by 14 or 15 to the Cavs or something like that. I just think how is that helpful? But everyone's talking about LeBron having 40 or having 35. Sure. And I just think LA.
If you don't win, it's like, who cares?
Right.
It's incredible because he's old, but it's like at the same time, it's like, who cares? Like he's gonna pass Kareem regardless because he's not retiring. So it doesn't matter. I don't want to see 50 points and a 1-point win to the Orlando Magic. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. It doesn't count.
So if you're LA next year, what do you do? Do you rebuild, or because you really don't have any trade assets?
No, they have nothing. So it's super difficult, but they have to move some stuff around. And that's a part of Rob Pelinka being a GM. It's not going to be easy. They have terrible contracts with some of the players. I think Russ's trade value is very low at the moment based off of the way that he's played. But figure it out. They have a very top-heavy roster with AD and Bron and Russ taking all the money. They have a lot of guys on one-year contracts that, aren't on the roster anymore. And then they have one young player in THT. So they're going to probably have to move some stuff around, take on a couple bad contracts. But they have to do something because this team as is next year, I don't care if Bron, Russ, and AD play all 82 games. It's just not a good team. It's not a championship caliber team, in my opinion.
Gotcha.
Do you go win a championship or do you just go nuclear and just trade LeBron and AD?
I mean, it really decides what you want to do. Like, I was an advocate for AD, thinking that he was a top 5 player at one time in the league. But my thing is the best ability is availability, and he never plays. So if I'm Rob Pelinka, I have to really think really, really long and hard, about keeping him on the team based off of the last 2 seasons. And you never want to blame anybody for being injured. He didn't try to be injured, but the thing is he has not played. So it's like, what can you do? You wanted Bron to take a back seat and Anthony Davis be the young guy in his prime that's 28 years old to carry the franchise, and it's not working. Yeah,
it's a tough situation. Chelsea, how fortunes can change fast in a franchise on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the most. How surprised were you at the last third of the season? Because like you said, when we talked about it a few episodes ago, you're like, they're fighting, they'll get in. And how surprised were you? And then, as kind of like Ani saying, piggybacking, is this core kind of done? Are they going to just make a move a few parts?
I was not surprised. They're not a good team. I saw enough. I literally saw enough. Anybody who really watches basketball, you can hope and wish that everybody's going to be healthy. But I watched the effort. I watched the energy of them playing other people. They didn't have the legs to run with Memphis. They don't have the shooting to play against Golden State. It was just everything. They just were not good. So I was not surprised. I was surprised that in their inability with Bron and Russ sometimes to close winnable close games against bad teams. That's what surprised me. Why are we losing to Portland? Why are we losing to Sacramento?
Yeah.
Why are we losing to these teams that we just should have no business losing to? It doesn't even matter who really plays. We should still beat them. So that's what surprised me. But I didn't want them to make the playoffs because they weren't going to be good, and I didn't want to watch anymore. Enough is enough. They would have lost in the play-in, they would have got waxed by the Suns.
Yeah, the Suns. Yeah.
Was saying, hey, I think if the Lakers make it, that they can challenge the Suns. No, they cannot. They can't. So I'm glad they put me out of my misery. I don't want to see it, and I don't want to see it next year unless the roster has changed. Wow. I will have a new team.
You're taking a strong stance.
Very strong stance.
Yeah,
So.
because then I got to take a strong stance on Sunday because we heard at the end of the season, Russ was saying, the media was kind of trying to leak stories about me and Vogel and I getting along
Right.
that type of thing. And I'm thinking, now Chelsea, you would know the best. You play pro basketball, you know the best. I know the least. Ani, you know a little bit more than me. If you're a great player, now there's 3 guys in the top 75 list on this team, whether they're not in their prime, it doesn't matter. I've never heard a great player say, I can't play with another great player. Like, how great? If you have 5 really good players, they got to make it work. So somebody's not either doing something right here or somebody's not as great as we think they are, because I've never heard of 5 guys. Now, again, positional matters a little bit, fit. But if you're a great player, you figure out how to play with another great player at the high school, junior college, D2, D1, or NBA level. If you're that good, you'll figure it out. So this team can never figure it out. Like,
yeah, but I hate the top 75 narrative though.
Yeah.
Yes, they have a lot of top 75 players. Some of them players are Carmelo. Like, he's not helping. I don't care if he's a Hall of Famer and top 75. Like,
I forgot about him.
You have to meet people where they are. All of the Lakers players, Ron included, are outside of their prime.
Right.
And the one that is in their prime, it never plays. Yes, the team is stacked, the players are good, but you guys are looking at the resumes. But I'm looking at today. And today, Carmelo is not helping many teams. Even when he played for Portland, he helped them by coming off the bench, playing 14 minutes. He's playing 27 minutes for the Lakers.
Oh, no, that's not going to work.
27 minutes of really bad defense.
That's 27 minutes.
Shot making when he's playing, in the Crypto Center.
Yeah.
And no. Just no. I don't care about the top 75. Like, I'm looking at right now. And right now,
correct. So you still need. So it's still important to have role players. It's still important to have rebounders, guys you said in their prime, young, fresh.
Yeah, dirty work players though too. The Lakers got beat on pure hustle and effort.
Yeah, correct. And that's like you said, starts from the top.
Get some guys, and that's why I would you got rid of Caruso. You got people that are, KCP. Yeah, you Lakers fans wanted to kill those guys, but those guys were out there hustling. Yeah. They're playing defense. They're doing all the plays that LeBron's not going to do, because LeBron is not going to bend his knees to play defense on many occasions. He can sit down when the game is on the line and he has to maybe guard, but for the most part, they're not guarding anybody. Russ isn't guarding anybody. Carmelo has never guarded anybody. No. So it's like
it's a bad fit. Back to your point, the roster was a bad fit. Forget the 75. So let's try to focus. We'll switch gears because I don't think this is going to get solved. From what it sounds, it's not going to get solved easily, and they may not be that good next year because they don't going to do so many moves. Like, they're going to have to cut guys and just get younger guys that are hungry on veteran minimums or something, because they need a whole upgrade. So
that's why I would trade LeBron and AD.
Because it's not going to get better.
Yeah, well, we'll see what they're going to do, because LeBron's up for this extension, and I think if they don't extend it or if he doesn't sign it, I think that kind of lets you know what's going to happen,
where they're going to head. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't really matter who the coach is. It doesn't matter whose fault it is, because it's a whole myriad of problems. And let's focus now on the teams that did make the playoffs and the guys who did play good. Let's talk about the NBA award winners and who we think had great seasons. I know, Chelsea, you watch a lot, and on you have your picks, and you hope, you wish the Rockets were just a little bit better. And I do too. Honestly, I wish the Rockets were a little bit better.
Yes.
I like Jalen Green. I want to see them do good. So, we kind of talk about who, like you said, watching game by game, who had great games, and versus like some historical milestones. So I'll go start, and we talk about NBA MVP, and we talk about Nikola Jokic, the Joker, Giannis, and some of the other great players that had a great season, Joel Embiid, and it's always going to come down to one of those 3 guys. And I look at the Nuggets, and they're like Chelsea mentioned, the Lakers got put out of their misery. Like, the Nuggets had a lot of injuries. Not having Jamal Murray, like, that guy in the bubble was playing as good as almost any guard in the league.
100%.
And so, like, for Joker to lead them to at least they got seeded. At least they're battling, and Denver's the 6th seed, and they're up. They have their hands full with Golden State. Like, and to reach the numbers he did with the points, rebounds, and assists, I think he's the MVP. So I want to get your guys' take. Who do you guys think the MVP is? And I just think from the statistical measure, I still like that a bit. And his ability, obviously, he has ability, and so that's not the case. And I just like the fact that, like you said, there's no excuses made. A lot of teams had injuries, and they still are battling in the playoffs. So I like the Joker.
Yeah, yeah. All right. I think Joel Embiid, 30 points, 12 rebounds. You know, Philly. You know, they played well this season. They were dealing with all Ben Simmons fiasco. James Harden has been playing like trash, and you know, and and he's still, you know, keeping them in. And I mean, I think Philly can make a run at it in the playoffs. I don't think they're a championship caliber team unless James Harden, you know, figures it out. But you know, obviously Tyrese Maxey's been doing good. That's a Garland, Texas kid. But I just think Joel Embiid just been so impactful. You know, his inside out game, his rebounding, his rim protecting. I think he's kind of taken it to another level, and he's really led Philly, you know, to a high seed in the playoffs. And I think they're, you know, going to go a couple rounds deep. I like Joker. It would be interesting. I think the narrative would be a lot different if Jamal Murray played, because maybe I would probably maybe put him above, maybe because I'm big on winning. I'm big on like the C's winning. Like I'm big on that when it comes down just to the MVP voting. But I just think Joel Embiid just been the best player for, I think, a longer stretch than Giannis and Joker has this season. But I definitely say Embiid than Joker, then I'll go Giannis.
I'm with you, Ani. Give me Joel Embiid. You know, he's had a lot of adversity this season. Still kind of figured out a way to carry, you know, the team and his teammates. And you know, I want to give him a little bit of credit, which I know this doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but for him staying healthy. Like Joel has always had all the talent, but you know, he's kind of like you know, Anthony Davis, where you know he's not always available, kind of, you know, out of shape a little bit at times, a little bit overweight. But this year he's been right there in the mix for Philly every single time. The whole Ben Simmons fiasco got past that. And he's just making a way. So, you know, I look at Joker, who has incredible numbers. Statistically, he, you know, obviously leads the league in every category. But, you know, I give Joel the edge for just some things that we don't always chart. And then especially on the defensive end, I just feel like he's more impactful defensively, and offensively, his numbers aren't too far off. They're pretty close. So I'm going with him.
Yeah, Joel Embiid, I think, is the first like true post player to lead the league in scoring in a while. Like
since Shaq, right?
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. It's, you know what I like about Joel Embiid, and it has anything to do with his play this year, is like how he came and the decisions he made, because he was at Montverde and he wasn't playing that much at all. His junior, he wasn't playing at all. He was behind Dakari Johnson, and they were a kind of a perimeter team with D'Angelo Russell. And he made the decision to get out of there, and that was a good decision. Like, he went to another academy type school, and it worked for him, and he went to Kansas. But like, you know, just everybody's path is just so different. Like, you look at the three best players in the league right now, if we're talking about the MVP candidates, like how they got to the league and like where they're from. Because we're talking about all these high school players and all these Gator, like that shit don't matter. Like, look where these guys, how they made it. Like Giannis just coming from where he came from. And obviously Embiid being like not a high school superstar, like he was on the bench at a big time school, and then he moved to another school to get his playing time. So like, and then Joker's obviously from another country. So it's just, I think it's awesome to see, like, because we always talk about all the rankings of players, the best players, and like none of that. Like at the top level, sometimes it just doesn't even matter. You know, like it's really cool to see. And you know, I like the rankings. I think it does matter. It's pretty funny. Talk about that Jordan brand claim. Like they had Bradley Beal come on and as a guest analyst for like maybe he spoke for about 10 minutes, and they were talking about Bradley. You know, Bradley's like he might be 30 now, 29, somewhere around there.
Yes.
He's 2011. He's 2011, so he's about 29. So he's talking about, this was a long time ago when I played in this game. Like he's saying, making it sound like it's very old.
So old.
Yeah, like he's very old, you know. And he's like, and they were asking him like, "Hey, do you remember where you were ranked?" Like, he goes, "Oh, hell yeah, like I know I'm 4 or 5 in that class." And he's like, "Do you remember who's number 1?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, AD was number 1." Like, And then Paul Van Carty was kind of joking. He's like, you were never going to pass AD. He's like, no, yeah, I know one's going to be the number one player. But like, I do think I'm like, I remember I was ranked 4 or 5. So we always talk about like on Twitter, I see all this rankings don't matter. Rankings, that's bull. The players know exactly where they're ranked. You know what I mean? Like it gives you a motivation. Like, hey, I got to get to that guy, you know? Or so like, it's pretty funny how I'm mentioning in one token that like these NBA MVPs are coming from all over the place, but like the players do take it into consideration. It is a great motivating factor going forward. So I just thought I'd mention that, and we kind of talked about Emoni Bates, and now let's talk about Rookie of the Year, because again, Emoni Bates won Player of the Year over all the guys who are Rookies of the Year candidates. So it's Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, and Scottie Barnes is the finalist, right? Yeah. So what do you guys think about throw these guys? Obviously, Jalen Green is not going to win Rookie of the Year. Sorry, Ani. He said the Rockets. Yeah, but he's seen him play really good down the stretch, a little bit better, better shot selection, a little more efficient. But obviously, he needs better. They need better play around him for him to reach his potential. But what do you guys think of this rookie class? Seems like a great class. Like Evan Mobley's terrific. Cade is terrific. Obviously, his high school teammate Scottie Barnes is terrific.
Chelsea, you go.
Okay. Well, give me Scottie Barnes. I know he doesn't have the maybe sexiest name, on the list, but that kid is incredible. And what I like the most about him, he plays with so much poise. He's so mature, and he just lets the game come to him. Like, sometimes you see these rookies, and they're kind of out there just trying to figure it out. So you see, bad shooting. You talked about Jalen Green and just kind of shot selection and just trying to, see where you fit in. But Scottie, he fits right in already. So mature, his body, so much poise. And I think that he has the numbers to match. Unfortunately, he went down with an ankle injury, I guess, against the Sixers yesterday. Joel Embiid stepped on his foot or whatever. But even look at that game. Double-digit points, double-digit rebounds, 7 assists, goes out of the game early. Such an impact player, such an underrated player. I think that people would have no problem if he won it. I don't think he will win it, but I wish he would win it, and I feel like he's well deserving.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love Scottie Barnes. He was a kid that got to see since the 8th grade.
Yeah.
Great kid. Like, he's a funny. he's a funny kid. But like you said, just like this season, I think he's averaging like 15 points. 8 rebounds, 3 or 4 assists before he got hurt in Philly. Had a double-double. I think it's just his feel, his rebounding, his defensive versatility, his scoring. I mean, Ronnie was talking about how they thought James Worthy was going to be Magic Johnson. I don't think he's going to be Magic Johnson, but he gives me that Magic Johnson as just with the passing and how he scores. I would definitely say Scottie Barnes. I love Evan Mobley, and I had to stay with it because Toronto's in the playoffs, right? Yeah. The other two guys, their teams are in the playoffs. Cade, obviously, I've known for a long time, been great, but I wouldn't give it to him this year. I know his numbers have been really good, but he hasn't played a whole lot of games, as many games as those guys have. But Evan Mobley, he's such a monster. I mean, especially on the defensive end. If he were to win it, I wouldn't even be mad. Like, he's one of the best defensive rookies that I've seen in a long time, and just like the freakish plays he makes, it's just one of a kind. Like, I mean, if he won it, wouldn't be surprised, but I definitely think Scottie Barnes deserves it more than those 3.
Mobley will win it though. Yeah. He will win it. But
you guys have a very interesting take. I like Scottie Barnes because when I seen him at like Pango's camp, he wasn't the best player, I didn't think. But as I go through the camp, everybody wants to jump on his team because that team's not going to lose. Like, no, I want to play on his team. Or like, we're breaking up the All-Star game. All right, Evan, you're over here. Cade, you're over here. I'm breaking them up and Dino's got the other game going, so we got to do it fast. It's not like we have time to really analyze it. We just got to break it up as much as we can. And everybody wants to play with Scottie Barnes, because his team's going to win the camp games. And like, his personality, he's confident, and it carries over, and you can see that all the time. So what I like about him is, again, maybe I'm watching too much highlights. I need to watch a little bit more, like defensive rotation slides. I like when he gets the rebound and he covers the ground in 4 or 5 dribbles.
Mhm.
4 dribbles, he's at the rack and he
Yes.
that gets me excited. Like that's the type of player I like. Like a guy who can cover ground. Yeah, his shooting can improve. I mean, his shooting can improve just like any other.
And it will improve. Like I feel like he's a hard worker. Like I think he's going to be just fine. But as of now, he's been the best fit of any rookie on any team.
On a good
Mobley, team, and Mobley will win the award, and he's deserving too. But Scottie Barnes, people need to take a look at this kid. He's going to be really good for a long time.
Yeah. So, I wouldn't mind if Scottie Barnes. would pick Evan Mobley. I just think he's just defensively and like the way he moves is one of a kind. Like you can really take chances on the perimeter, defending. Maybe going for a steal. Being a little more aggressive, it helps the whole team because he can recover so well and defend so well and get some blocks or change the shots. So I really like that. I like that kind of thing because I'm a small guard. So I'm like, yeah, I got Evan Mobley. I can go jump the passing lane or try a low risk play and then he can recover for me. So I like that kind of thing. And I'm sure Scottie Barnes is a hell of a defender too. So I think you guys mentioned Cade Cunningham's putting up some good numbers. I don't think it's impactful enough. I don't think he was injured at the beginning. So you guys have kind of convinced me a little more about Barnes, how good he is. So, but I still think I like Evan Mobley, because just his defensive impact. And you don't see guys 7 foot, especially now, that can move like that. So speaking of that, I think you're right. I think most likely Evan Mobley's going to win. But do you guys think Scottie can win? Like the fans are the media's just going to say, look at his numbers. He's the winner. Or no? Is it going to
be Mobley's going to win. Mobley's going to win. And but I think I just think Scottie's more deserving. I think Scottie just really kind of fell under the radar early. Mobley was really good early, and he was still good. But I think you just know how it goes. I mean,
that's just how it works. How the media works. So speaking of defense, let's talk a little bit about defense and defensive player of the year. I don't really want to get into most improved player because that's a whole other thing we'll talk about for a minute in itself. But defensive player of the year, people are all over the board. There's some finalists, obviously Mikal Bridges, Marcus Smart. I like Giannis for the same reason that we talked a little bit about Mobley, and he's not going to win it. He's not even a finalist. But with Lopez out, he does a lot for that team, and obviously they're the 3rd seed. And they gotta play better. They got their work cut out for them to get back to the finals and to win it again. They obviously got Chicago and they started well. They're up 1-0. But if Lopez is out, Giannis has done a lot. And we always talk about. I heard Doris Burke mention that. She goes, "I want Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart deserves Player of the Year. I'm voting for Marcus Smart because it's a perimeter game. All they do is shoot threes. He could guard." And I'm like, yes. That's what makes Mobley and Giannis so good. They're big men that can get out and guard the 3-point line, recover, get back. When I was a young kid watching ball, Tree Rollins and Moses Malone, and they couldn't guard anything on the perimeter. They just couldn't guard the perimeter at all. It was a big man's game. So when we talk about Giannis, I just like the way he can do a lot of things and recover, get out on the perimeter a little bit, guard the 3-point line, recover back. Same thing with Evan Mobley. He can do that pretty good as well. You mentioned that, Ani. So I like the big man, maybe because I just like the big man, but I kind of get Doris Burke's point. It's a good point, but if the game's so perimeter oriented, then you got to have big men that can move. That's why I like Giannis, but he's not going to win.
Yeah, I think, it's a big man award. I mean, for the most part, who's the last guard to win it? Gary Payton or somebody 100 years ago? Yeah. So, I mean, it's a big man award, but I think for me, I really look at Marcus Smart and Mikal Bridges from the Suns, just because I think their ability to most of the talent, in my opinion, is just on the perimeter. We have very talented players all across the board in the NBA, but you when you have to sit down and guard Kyrie, and you have to sit down and guard these players that are just extreme skill level and extreme talent, and to even just make it difficult on these guys. And Mikal Bridges has the length, and he's meeting you at the rim, he's sitting down in the perimeter, he's contesting all of your shots. I'd like to see a guard just win it, because I just feel like they're having to guard more times than not the more difficult assignment Put it that way. Like I remember in the past, Rudy Gobert, he's winning and stuff, and even the players are like, "What the hell? Rudy Gobert can't stay in front of anybody on the perimeter." And I don't want to downplay rim protection because it's huge and it's important, and that's what he does. Like Rudy Gobert is a help defender, not so much a one-on-one defender. But I think Marcus Smart and Mikal Bridges are one-on-one, and when you have so much talent and it's so difficult, I feel like how could you not recognize it? Because you're not going to really stop any great NBA player, but to make it difficult, like it has to be worth something. And to even try, like we have half the guys in the league who don't even try to play defense because it's just like, okay, well, I'm guarding Kyrie and he's just going to score. But to people to see them put in the effort, like Marcus Smart every night is putting in the effort. He's making the hustle plays. He's diving on loose balls. He did dive on Steph Curry's ankle, which was too much, according to Steve Kerr. But other than that, like I think one of those guys deserves it, and I would be fine with either one. And both are finalists, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I definitely want to go Marcus Smart on that. I just think I know it's the 2021, 2022 Defense Player of the Year, but he's been so good since he got into the league, and I think he's deserving of it. I love how Mikal Bridges plays defense. I mean, just like he really contests jump shots, blocks them. He's like he's just such an interesting defender, just how he gets through screens and everything like that. But I just think Marcus Smart, like every night, he's guarding the best perimeter player, and he's been doing it for years. And, people have been acknowledging it, but I definitely think he deserves the award. I think a guy that's not on the finalists, but is someone that I really just, I guess, watched play defense, and he didn't play as many games, Matisse Thybulle. If it was somebody that, add on that list, if he played more games, Matisse Thybulle for Philly, I think he's one of arguably the best perimeter defender in the league. But definitely will go Marcus Smart out of finals. I think he's been deserving. He's been doing it for years. I know this is for this season, but he's been fantastic. Like he's been, his whole career.
Yeah, definitely defensive player of the year or all defense is a little reputational, or has been over the years. Maybe there's a little more emphasis on it now. Like I'm glad Doris Burke said that, and people are going to follow a little bit like, oh yeah, that's a good point. So now, who do you think is going to win, Mikal or Smart? Bridges?
I think Smart.
Yeah, Smart. But I wouldn't be mad with Bridges either.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Doesn't need me like a center. Well,
just no post players. Enough is enough.
Enough of the big guys. Yeah. Like, oh yeah. Some of the all defensive, accolades over the years have been very, very reputational. So I hope we get away from that a little bit, and start giving it to the guys who deserve it, like literally deserving. You guys make some great points. So it's probably going to be Smart. Maybe it'll be Bridges, but it'd probably be Smart. Right. That's how, and maybe they're going to be influenced by these first games of the playoffs. Let's talk about the coaches. I mean, obviously we can go all over the place with the coaches. I don't want to spend too much time on the coaches. I just think Monty Williams, you guys mentioned, there's not injuries happened all over. A lot of teams won 50 games and 48 games. There's no two teams that are like, oh, these two teams are going to meet in the finals. They both won 65 games. These two teams should meet in the finals. Like the Suns should get to the finals. They'll be upset if they probably don't. Like, so then if Monty Williams by far has the best record by like 12, 13 games of each conference, I just think he should be the coach of the year. Yeah. I don't see maybe some guy did a good job because they fought injuries or something. That was just my opinion on coach of the year. I just think from start to finish, the Suns have been the best team. Give it to him.
I would agree with that. He is definitely, I think, the coach of the year. He's not my favorite coach. My favorite coach is actually Tyronn Lue. And this is just a little sidebar, because if you really are more than like just a fan and you like really like watch basketball and understand what you're watching, the adjustments that he makes like in games, his ability to do so much more with less, to compete when people are out or people are in, it's like he doesn't care. It's like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're still gonna play to win. And he's my favorite coach in the NBA. So I know he's not going to win the award because the Clippers, didn't make it, like whatever. But, they need to really start taking a look at just who's really out there coaching. Like, and he's up there for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you with Ty Lue. I'm with Monty. I think Monty deserves it. He should win it. But Ty Lue, when he said that, I was like, man, like I've seen the adjustments he makes in the play calling. I think he's one of the best play callers in the league. Like I think there's just the sets that he'll run and just little slight adjustments. You think it's just a little thing, but it opens players up to score, and he's made guys that look a lot better than they probably would on any other team. But
and he knows he has a voice in the locker room, and I think that's a huge part to just be able to motivate, not only coach but to motivate. And I think that's what the Lakers didn't have. Correct. You know, they always have LeBron who's always talking, whatever. But like to have a coach that can just say, you know, who can rally the troops, like get them going, get them playing, like that's important too. Like there's a lot of aspects that go into coaching, and Tyronn Lue is he just has it all. Like he can relate. He can motivate, he can X's and O's, he can make adjustments, he can do more with less. Like just the list goes on of his ability. And you know, the Lakers really blew it when they didn't sign him.
It's funny you mentioned that because a sister of a prominent college player told me that a prominent college head coach, and again, sometimes parents or family members know things that are just so simple you don't even think about. And she goes, "Oh, Ronnie, that guy can't coach. He panics. And every time the last 3-4 minutes of the game, he panics. This is a big time coach who's won an NCAA. He's like, he can't coach. He panics. Right. You know what I mean? So like when I see Tyronn Lue, like even in his press conference, he always says the right things. He's calm. That's what he's not even worried. They're down 4 with 2 minutes to go. They're down 6 with 3 minutes. Like he's the same. That's one thing I know that I like about him is he doesn't rattle his players to get them tighter. He gets them back in. Hey guys, this is the player we're going to run. So I really like that. I kind of saw that with Doc Rivers a little bit. Like, his facial, just oh man, like he's not giving his players confidence. You know what I mean? Like it just comes off like that. Like he's not giving the players confidence. Like, oh shit, this is going to happen again. We're going to lose the lead. And so you see a guy like Ty Lue, and he does a really great job. I think Monty Williams is like that. Like who wouldn't respect Monty Williams? Like just for what he's been through personally. Like I don't respect that guy. Like I would love to play for that guy. Just and obviously the Suns have their own motivation because we'll talk about it here in a minute. Like they want to get it done. They're on the clock to get it done. So I think it's Monty Williams. Let's talk about the last thing I want to mention about the individual players is the most improved player. I don't even know who's on the list. I don't even care really. It's not a big deal to me. Maybe you guys have more vested interest in it, like because what people think is the most improved player is like all over the board. So like Ja Morant's up for the award. I'm like, should the second pick of the draft be up for most improved?
No top picks. No. If you're a top pick, you're supposed to come in and do something. So just because you've improved from last season to this season, no. Like everybody's improving at something, but you're supposed to be a guy. If you're a top 5 pick, you're a guy. You're going to be playing. You're inserted. We're expecting something from you. You know, your expectations are already pretty high. So in my opinion, top picks are automatically disqualified from this. And Ja Morant, amazing, incredible season. Nobody disputes that. But no, he can't win that award. He has to try to go for MVP one day. That's pretty much it.
And he was really good last year. Like it wasn't like he was.
I'm just missing the point. Where did he improve at? Just the percentage? What do people think he improved at? I'm a little lost. Percentages or just the leadership?
Well, I don't even know if his percentages are improved tremendously, but I think the way that he's kind of just been the leader of that team, rallied that team. They're an incredible team, whether he plays or doesn't play, which I think is a testimony to coaching and just kind of like the culture that they built over there. But I think, you always have to give credit to a team's leader. He's their leader.
Okay.
They're doing something that they've never done in terms of just games won in a season and just, their ability to just be in the mix, even though they're down, 1-0 right now to Minnesota. I think that you can't downplay the type of season that they've had, and Ja Morant is in the forefront. So he has to be given some type of credit, but that credit will not be in the form of most improved player.
I'm like, if he wins more, I'm gonna be like, huh? Like, right. I thought he was second team NBA, all NBA.
Yeah, something like that. That'd be awesome. That'd be perfect.
Yeah, I thought he was second team all NBA or whatever. Like that's what I thought he was up for. But I guess I'm with you guys on that. I don't really have a. I've never known. Like, if you ask me, Ryan, who's the most improved player in 2003, I have no clue. Like, it just doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just the way the award works. I like to see players improve, but you see players improve, but I don't know about the award. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If Ja Morant's up for it, it just doesn't make much sense to me. Like the guy, like you said, he's a number 2 pick. So let's move on to the actual teams and the actual season and the games in. We, like you mentioned, Chelsea, some of the teams that have already won the first game, Celtics, on a great play by Marcus Smart. I thought that was a great play. What was KD doing on that play? Like, dude,
watching, sleeping.
Right.
Jason Tatum's cutting to the basket, and Marcus Smart's looking straight at him. Like, he did the little ball fake, perfect two-hand chest pass like you're supposed to do it as a young player. And then Tatum obviously made a great spin move and a finish. But yeah, I don't know what KD was doing on that play. But they got their hands full. The Celtics good. The Heat won. I guess the Hawks kind of went flat after that big play-in win. The Bucks are up on the Bulls and the 76ers. You guys, Joel Embiid and them beat the Raptors as Tyrese Maxey, your guy, played really good, Ani. So what do you guys think about the Eastern Conference? You obviously know which teams are up 1-0. We're talking about this. As we talk about this, and as you guys listen to this pod, we're going to have, you're going to probably already know the Monday results. And the Monday games are the Raptors and Sixers are playing game 2. Jazz, Mavs are playing game 2. Jazz are up 1-0, and the Nuggets are down 1-0 to the Warriors. They're playing on Monday night. So as you guys listen to this, we'll have some results. But what do you guys think about the Eastern Conference?
Okay, I'll start. So Miami, wow, they came out as the number 1 seed. I thought they had an excellent performance. They're very, very sharp defensively. Like sometimes I look at Miami and I don't know if they have the offensive firepower. Like, they have Jimmy Butler and, people that they have Tyler Hero, people that can get hot and score. But like, sometimes I just think like, dang, do they really have enough if they're going to go up against, a prominent or a prolific scorer on another team? But, they came out there, Trae Young, they did an amazing job on him. I think he had like 8 points or something like that. And they just look really good as a team. And that's just the Pat Riley culture in Miami. They're going to come, they're going to play super hard. I can see maybe Atlanta winning a game or so, but I don't really think it's going to go past 5 or 6. I watched Philly, who was super dominant. Wow, that kid, Tyrese Maxey, he's very special. I think they have a big 3 now. If James, he had a great game. Joel Embiid obviously is their star and their best player. And then Tyrese Maxey's just kind of getting there, fitting in, perfectly. He can score. He's dynamic. There's really not anything that he can't do. And unfortunately, I think the Raptors are kind of done. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they got swept. Scottie Barnes probably out. They have Fred VanVleet, but he can only do so much. I don't really see Toronto winning more than a game, if at all. Gotcha. And what else? Let's see.
Who's coming out of the East, Chelsea? Who's going to come out of the East?
Man, it's really a toss up. Like, even when I look at the Nets and the Celtics, it's like the Nets just have so much star power and Brooklyn and Kyrie and KD. It's like I never want to bet against them. I don't think that their team is like great, but it's just like, if I have 2 guys that can get 40 like whenever they want, and if the game is close and I know that I can just give one of them the ball and they're gonna score, like how do you kind of downplay that? Sure. The East to me is still just kind of a toss up. Like, I can say Milwaukee, who struggled a little bit yesterday, but they closed the game. Even though Miami's the number 1 seed, they're always going to be in the mix because of how they play, just defensively. Boston and Nets, I think, is the kind of series to watch. A lot of people think that the Nets can win it, but Boston, I think, collectively has the best team, and they're going to get Robert Williams coming back too, who's missing, and they were still able to win that first game without him. So it's going to be difficult. But if I had to guess, let me give 3 teams. I'll say between the Bucks, the Sixers, and give me
Miami
Boston.
or the Nets?
Give me Boston. No, I don't think Miami's. I think that they don't have enough offense. I think that they're a really good team, but if they're going to come up against, prominent scorers, I've seen games where Jimmy Butler's had 8 points. So I can't roll, Okay. So we'll see. That's my prediction. I know it's hard to just pick one, but I don't think I can pick one. I really don't. I really can't. I don't have a clear cut answer of who's going to come out of that conference, but I think it'll be one of those 3 teams.
I think it'll be Philly. I think Philly will come out.
Really?
Yeah. I like.
You want to see Tyrese ball?
I love to see Tyrese ball, and I'm a big Embiid fan. I'm a huge Embiid fan, but I like how Philadelphia's been playing.
But what about James though? He gets a little shaky sometimes when it gets tight.
Just give it to Reese. Give it to Reese.
Okay,
Scottie doesn't like those aging top 75 guys.
I love James.
I really don't either.
James is incredible. A motivated, in shape. James Harden is great, but it's just I've seen James come up short too.
He's neither right now. He's neither in shape or motivated.
I've just seen him come up short, and I would love for him to get over the hump because that's ultimately why he's there. But if he's not somebody that I'm going to bet on, I guess.
Put your money on.
Basically.
Okay.
I think Philly overcomes some things. I think they'll win it, but if they don't win, I think it's Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee goes back to the NBA Finals. That's going to be a dogfight with Chicago. That may go to 7 games. So I was watching it. Like, that's going to be a dogfight. Boston is really, really good. That again, that's another series that goes 7 games. Like you said, like either of them could make it to the finals. Mm-hmm. I got Philly or Milwaukee, and I say my third would be like just Boston or Brooklyn, whoever wins that series. I mean,
you're on the same page with me, kind of.
Yeah. I mean, I know that Philly's just a wild swing. Maybe I'm just so hyped because Reese had like 38 the other night. But I think Philly doesn't have to rely as much on James Harden to get there. He just got to be solid enough.
Be solid. So you don't have Miami at all, though.
No.
Okay.
I'm with you on that.
Okay.
For me, I have the Eastern Conference Finals, Milwaukee over Miami. As their 1 seed, I think though that'll help them a bit. Butler can score just enough. They can pull out enough close wins. They'll win a series. But I think Milwaukee hasn't played to their capability as they did late last year, but they'll step it up. Like I don't see anybody slowing down Giannis if he's healthy and he's right. He's gonna play much better as the series just go along. As the more playoff games go by, I think he's gonna. And like I said, there's no dominant team in the East. There's not really like a 62-win team that this team's been playing good. They're healthy and they should roll through. So I see where you guys are going, and it's still a little bit open. So that kind of points me to the West. Is if the East is so open, like it's the Monty Williams and his crew, CP3 and those guys, is there that much pressure on them to win? Like, do they have to get it done? Because this is the year to beat the East. Like you guys said, it's kind of open. Like Phoenix is healthy as far as we can see. Obviously, they have a leader. He's playing really good right now. He had a 30-10 game at 37 years old. The oldest guy at 36 and 10 months, whatever he is. And it's like they have a good overall team. And most of all, they've been consistently good. Like we're not waiting on a guy to come back from injury. We're not waiting on James Harden to get hot. We're not waiting on they're not waiting on anything. Like, is this their year, or is there some other team in the West that is gonna step up and surprise?
The only one that may be Golden State.
Okay, they
can make it interesting. I just think it's Phoenix. Just blow by. I'm gonna be at the Jazz Mavs game tonight. It hurts that Luka's not gonna be there. I thought if Luka was healthy, gets past the first, could potentially make it very interesting for Phoenix. But I think Phoenix they've been the best team I saw. Like, I know it was only one game in the playoffs, but like they were just the best team I've seen in this playoffs, in the season. I mean, they're just that good. But I mean, Golden State can make it interesting. I mean, who else you really got? Like,
you got the 2 seed Memphis. I mean, that's an interesting series. I hear fans want to be like, I want to know them a little bit and talk more about Ant Davis and Ja, that matchup, and just them the little friendly trash talking in those two teams. They're kind of up and coming teams in that 2-7, like, but does Memphis really have a chance as a 2 seed? Like, no. It doesn't seem like it, like
I don't see it. I think Phoenix is the clear cut. Like, they have the experience. They have pretty much all the pieces that you really need to win, combined with the coaching. I just think that, it's going to come down to these clutch moments and these pressureful games. And, you have Chris Paul as your leader, who even you watched him last night. He closed that game scoring like 14 points, like in the fourth quarter, so to have somebody who has just been the moment and understands, and I think is just eager to get back and anxious too, because, Chris Paul's on his way out. He'll play a couple more years, but the opportunity for them to win is right now. I'm not really feeling Golden State. Like, they have the championship pedigree, obviously, but I don't like the way that Klay has been playing personally. Steph is kind of injured. The only bright spot that I really love on that team is Jordan Poole. I think, he has really, come into his own. And Golden State is going to have some decisions to make with him pretty soon. Like, they're not going to be able to pay everybody, but somebody's going to pay him. So they're going to have to figure it out. So I like the championship pedigree. Obviously, they've been in the moment. Steph will get healthy if they can hang on, and maybe they'll be able to do some things. But I haven't really liked Klay this year, and I just I still see Phoenix being better. I see Phoenix winning that series in 6 games if it even comes to that.
Yeah. So we mentioned most improved. Jordan Poole's the guy who I thought should have been in that group.
Oh, absolutely.
Talking about
and he has the most improved narrative and storyline.
Right.
G League, bounced around, like waited a couple years, finally got his shot with the Warriors. That needs to be the criteria for that reward. Not saying that you have to come from the G League, but you need to have a story in which you have, improved something to even to make the roster. So and that kid is incredible. Like, there's really nothing he can't do. I'm going to be, interested to see, like I said, what Golden State does with him. But I think that the confidence is high now. The skill set is really sharp, and people can see what he can do. So he can go to any team and be just fine.
Yeah. So bottom line, you guys are saying Phoenix should go through. So does that make Phoenix the favorite in your guys' pick to be the champion? Because we're not seeing a dominant team in the East. And you guys are kind of like, well, it might be this East team. So that means Phoenix by default, it's got to be the team that's the favorite and probably going to do it. Or no? Is something going to happen?
I think they are. I just, if they matched up with like a Milwaukee, something like that, it could.
They don't want to see Milwaukee again.
They don't want to see
another team. They
don't want to see. They
want to see Philly. They want to see your team.
They see Philly. They'll sweep them.
I was going to say the same thing. It's really just matchups for them. Like, Giannis just had his way last year. Like, I don't think they want any parts of that. And Milwaukee has perimeter defense. They have, Drew Holiday. They have a closer and Chris Middleton. They have size and Brook Lopez. Like, they have the pieces to beat them. Some of these other teams, I think, are lacking in certain areas. So I feel like, Monty Williams would do a good job of, capitalizing on those type of things.
Right.
So I would have them as the favorite, but I don't have them winning. I really don't know. Like, it just depends on who comes out the East, really, to see what happens.
That's, because we're saying the East has a dominant team, but what is it that, because I'm hearing on Twitter, CP3, the point guard, he's playing. So I've heard this story before in the first rounds. And then we get late and it's like, oh boy, the games are getting tight now. Is Phoenix going to do it? So is that going to change this year? Is this the year it's going to change and they're going to get it done? Or like, is this some team from the East just going to put it together and get on a hot run? Maybe they get hot and get hot at the right time.
I think Phoenix will win. I think they'll win the title.
At the end of the day, they'll win.
I think they'll win. If they play Milwaukee,
I
mean, it's 50-50 for me. Like, I just, 51-49, but like, if they play Milwaukee, I mean, they have nothing for that. They don't have nothing for that. It's just Milwaukee has something for them, right? Mm-hmm. Which is what, Chelsea said, is like the other teams don't have an answer for what they'll bring. They have so many things they can bring. Milwaukee has an answer for all of it,
Gotcha.
So,
and I think, you mentioned Chris Paul, talking about you've seen this story before. In Chris Paul's defense, because I'm a huge fan of him, like, he's had a lot of like adversity and misfortune, like in critical moments. Right. He played for Houston and he got hurt. I feel like they would have beat Golden State maybe in that series. He played with the Clippers, then he goes down and Blake goes down. Like, he's had these moments where he's gotten there and, there's been some type of misfortune. So I really think that this is his year, barring him staying healthy and, all their pieces staying healthy. They're going to have a very strong chance, like I said, but I can't say definitively because I really just think about it, who they're going to play. But I do think they'll come out the West.
Yeah. So my final take on that is I think the Suns will win just by process of elimination. I don't see another team. Unless Milwaukee plays really well, I could see Milwaukee winning a second consecutive. But I just think it's their time. I'm not a big Phoenix Suns fan. I mean, I'm a Laker. I grew up a Laker. Like the Suns are a bastard team. They're just like the afterthought. The Suns are like the games you go to when you can't afford to watch Jordan in LA. Like, okay, let's go watch a Phoenix. They were like, like that's how some teams were. Like a lot of people went to Arizona to go see like the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah,
I don't know, Ani, if you kind of knew that when you were little. Like people went to Arizona to go see the Cowboys because they
the training camp.
Yeah, because they couldn't see them in Dallas. It was an easy ticket, and it's like now they're a hot ticket, but it's like, yeah, I can't. Some in me can't root for the Suns, but like I think they're gonna win it. I just think at some point, like you said, Chelsea, they ran into misfortune. CP3's ran, but at some point, luck is on your side, or like those breaks go your way, and this is be the season that they go their way, especially with not a great team in the East. So on that note, we'll see how that goes. You got to really give CP3 a lot of credit because you kind of mentioned the health of people, like just what he's doing at his age is pretty incredible. We appreciate everybody listening to this podcast, and we kind of jumped on a lot of things, but we want to talk about the NBA and we really, really appreciate people tuning into the YouTube version. We hope you guys can continue to watch that. I know we're going to be watching the playoffs. Chelsea, we're going to come back in a couple of weeks and talk about the WNBA. The WNBA is going to kick off on May 6th. It will be in the thick of the playoffs. Is there anything else out there that you guys want to mention? And it's been a great NBA season. A lot of things have happened. Obviously, this unfortunate thing happened with this young lady. What's next on the horizon? Chelsea, you're back. Tell us real quick before we get out here, what happened this season? This is you've been in Israel quite a bit. You guys were a playoff team, I know, and now you're back in Vegas. What's on your horizon for this summer?
So my season ended in Israel. We lost in the semifinals. We actually got swept, which is sad. But we went in as the 2 seed. We were the number 1 seed in regular season. But basically kind of what happens with overseas, I don't know if people know how it works, but like I was on a middle of the pack team in terms of budget.
Okay.
So when you play in the regular season, we were awesome. We kept the same team. We're winning. We're doing great because we just had the best collective chemistry and stuff like that. It doesn't necessarily mean that we were the best, but the way overseas works is the teams with all the money, the teams with the resources are going to make changes no matter what. So, people are like, yo, what happened? You guys were number 1. Well, yeah, we were the same team the whole season, and the teams that we were beating, now they got better. They got this player, they switched that player out, they got a new coach. And so by the time we ended up matching up with them in the semifinals, even though we beat them twice in the regular season, they pretty much had a different team and a better team. And that kind of just goes to show you how it works. And that's how overseas basketball is. And I mean, you see it with the NBA and just smaller markets. Some teams have the ability to do stuff that other teams don't. And that was the situation that we were in. So great season overall, because I took a team that had no business being in the Final Four, had never been in the Final Four before, to that position. But we never really had enough to win. So, kind of disappointing end when you've had a really solid regular season. But right now in the finals, it's the 2 teams with the biggest budgets. And they made the changes and the necessary adjustments to get there. And that's kind of what happened. So for me now, I'm just back in Vegas, obviously training and working out because I still plan on playing next season. I'm in contract negotiations as we speak. Other than that, just, staying involved in my community, the AAU team, we have young girls that I'm involved with, doing a little investment opportunities on the side, just some ways to just kind of bring in some money and ultimately just hanging out and spending time with my family. That's pretty much what the off season is for me. Just being around my loved ones because I'm gone for 7 months out the year, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, it's good. Hopefully one day we could bring on some kind of, we talked about a little bit offline, like some kind of somebody who can talk about social aspects or an investment. We'd love to talk about that, bigger, broader pictures, maybe give some of our listeners some insight for like an NBA financial officer or something like that, somebody who works with the NBA players, something to talk about money, something different. Ani, I know we got the live period coming up, but where are you going to be this upcoming weekend?
So I'll be in Dallas, and I'll probably first half I'll be in Indy.
Okay.
For a day. So yeah, EYBL. So be busy weekend over there. Like, I'll probably, it's like
you don't look too fired up right now.
Live period grind is such a whole different live period grind is such a different animal, man. Like just summer basketball. But the good things like my weeks aren't as crazy. Like the school season is like, you got the tournaments during the week, you know how it goes, and it's just nuts. But like summer AU is just okay, your weekends, it's just like 8 a.m. to like 11 p.m. in the gym. And it's that grind. It's fun. I mean, I just get my mind back to it. For sure. Then I'll travel some in May, probably go to Atlanta. I think Hoop Scene's running a big event. I know I'll be in Vegas for the Pangos All-American camp in June. It was funny. I text Dino's because I have people hit me say, "Hey, when is Dino's gonna put his roster?" I text Dino. Dino said, "Getting ready for the live period." like nothing.
Leave me alone.
Leave me the hell alone. I'm like, yes, sir. Just give him the thumbs up. Like, but that's just kind of live period. Dallas, Indy, go to Atlanta. I was thinking about going to Memphis for the Iverson Classic. I may decide this week, and then then Pangos All-American camp. Then then you got to the July period.
Correct. So that'll be June 5th through 7th at Bishop Gorman High School. Should be a great event. So again, thank you guys for tuning in. I think we're about to check out. Thanks for listening to our other pods, supporting us as we continue to move forward. Again, we still have the Balls Life discount code to get your first order 15% off. Shop.ballslife.com. Free shipping all through the U.S. That's PAINT 15. PAINT 15. Well, once again, thank you for tuning in to episode 126. We'll be back next week. And thank you. And for Chelsea and Ani, we're out of here.
Thanks, guys.